and welcome to Member 365 webinar on email campaign strategies and best practices. First, I'd like to introduce myself. So my name is Christine Bundy, and I am the Customer Success Manager at Member 365. Fun fact is I love questions. So all questions are good questions. There's no such thing as bad questions. So if you have questions at any time, please go down to the bottom of your screen to the Q&A and enter them. If I see them as I go, I will try to answer them. Otherwise, there is a Q&A at the end. Everyone has been muted, cameras are off, so all questions go into the Q&A. This is recording, so you will get a recording afterwards within the next 24 hours. And it also will be posted on our YouTube channel, so it's also always available there. So for today, what we will cover is how to create an email campaign, how to do list building, what's the difference between a list and a sign-up form. Then we'll go through reports and analytics, and then we'll go through best practices. And I will mention those as I go, but then I will go through each of them at the end, and then we'll have time for those questions. So again, questions at the bottom, love questions, all questions are good questions. So let's jump into Member 365. So I'm going into our site here, and I'm on our admin dashboard. Now, one thing I want to mention that I haven't mentioned previously is this dashboard or main menu at the top here. If you do not see email campaigns or lists, it means you do not have the permissions. So make sure you go to your admin manager and get the permissions if you are the one doing email campaigns or need to make lists. So each of our modules is set with permissions for administrators. So if you don't see something up here that we are covering, it's because you haven't been granted access and you talk to the membership manager in your organization. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to email campaigns and we're going to create a campaign. And I'm just going to do it from scratch with you. And we're going to do a newsletter. So we're going to type in newsletter. And I always like to put the date and the year because we do lots of newsletters. So it is April and it is 2023. And I'm going to just put this in here. Again, number one thing with subject lines is you want to be careful with keywords. There are lots of keywords that will automatically take your email. Doesn't matter how pretty you make it, how optimized you made it. If it has certain keywords, it will automatically go into spam filters, things like urgent, action, and a bunch of other words. There's tons of them out there. Just be aware of what keywords are filter sensitive. When you are doing them, don't make everything bold and don't capitalize everything. If everything's in high caps, it's automatically deemed as a spam for most filters, especially if you have universities and other association or institutes. They have really high firewalls and those are big no-nos. Then simply add the name. So this will automatically go to my name because I'm the administrator who is logged in. So it has my name, it has my email address. You can change this. Another thing that I will mention that we are all going through at the moment is making sure that your domain is authenticated. So make sure that we've added the CNAMEs to the domain that you are using, or your emails will not be sent out at the end of April 2023. So make sure that if you haven't done that already, get in touch with me so we can. It is a mandatory requirement for using Member 365. You do have to get authenticated, otherwise your emails will automatically go into spam folders, and it's going to help reduce bounce backs and any institute type of firewalls. There are still some really high firewalls that we can't control, but this is going to at least make sure that the emails go out, because you can't use things like Gmails. Don't use a personalized Gmail in here is automatically deemed as spam. And you can also get kicked out of using your Gmail account because it specifically says for Gmail personal accounts, you're not supposed to use them for commercial use. And this is technically commercial use. So little tips there. Once you have this all filled in, and again, you can come back and edit this. So if you change your mind, you want to update it before you send it out, you can. So we continue. Then we have a bunch of templates. You can create your own templates. So you can go in up here to email campaigns and go to campaign templates. You can create one here from scratch or using a template and then modifying it and then save it as a template. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But there is quite a few templates here for you. There's some newsletters already created. So I'm just actually going to go in and use our newsletter template that's already designed. So 2 things that I'm going to mention while in here. So first off is, how do I add items into this? So first is you want to use rows. I really like using rows for each section that is in the email that I'm trying to write. So I have my header, I have my main content, and then I have my footer. And if I have more than one section, so like for our newsletters, we have our blogs that we like to advertise, and we like to advertise our webinars, and then any little tidbits is afterwards. So that would be into 3 sections, 3 different rows. So I'm grouping that information together. Once you have your row in, you can simply just add the content that you want. So you can drag over images, you can do text, you can come in here, and then you can edit this text. One thing to always be aware of, do not copy directly from a Word document and then bring it into here. There is styling in Word documents that you don't want. So you don't want to do your styling in those documents. You want to do it in your email campaign. If you are bringing it over, go down to the bottom and bring up a notepad. Copy it in here. This removes the styling. Copy it again, paste it into the content here. So notepad on your computer removes all styling. So that's a good thing. Then you can also make edits here. So you can add in hyperlinks. For the hyperlinks, you can also do PDFs. So you can add a file from the file manager if you like. You can do specific, you can make these personalized. So you can say hello and go first name. So it'll grab the first name of the content or of the contact that you're sending this out to. So you can personalize these. And it's really important to personalize your emails. It's part of best practices so that people know that you like they've given you their information, otherwise not just acquired. Something to be aware of when formatting, don't do double columns. You want to make sure that you optimize every email for the mobile device, and every mobile device is different. They're different sizes. They have different operating systems. The one thing that I know is if you're going to do content, don't do side to side like it is in this row. Don't have an image and then text next to it. Just do it above. Because most of the time, if you do it to the side, it'll actually jump over and won't show correctly unless you turn it, and then it will show side to side. So something to be aware of is making sure that it's optimized for mobile, because some it will work on and some it won't. We found that it's funny enough, sometimes it will work on Android and it won't work on an Apple, or it will work on Apple and not an Android. So when you're putting these in, don't use columns. Make sure you put them in rows so that it's not, you're not going to have any discrepancies, and it's actually going to appear as you want it to appear, and you can have, people can actually read the content. So just be aware of that. So this is something I recommend not doing, just to show you an example, is doing the side by side. So don't do double columns. Stick with putting everything in rows. I know it looks sometimes a little bit bigger on desktop, but it's allowing people to see it easily on mobile, which helps increase your open rates. One thing you don't have to do in creating email campaigns is adding the unsubscribe. That's automatically added when it's sent from the system. Another thing to be aware of is when you're testing, these tags do not autofill. They only autofill when it is actually sent from Member 365 through the SendGrid and then out to the proper listings, because then it grabs that person that it's sending and then sends it out. When you're testing, it doesn't do that. So that's something to be aware of. Other things to be aware of when you are creating an email campaign, don't make them too long. I've seen a few emails and you're scrolling. Keep them concise, to the point. If you have so much information that you need to share with them, create a blog, put it on your website, or put it in your member portal as a workspace. You can add in the workspace. You don't even have to have a discussion open if you don't want to, or you could have a discussion so people can talk about the content, but have a link to somewhere else. So use buttons, and you can add buttons, and you can add the URLs, so you can link it to, so only people that have permission to read that content can. So even if people try to share the link, they can't get it if it's in the member portal. Or if it is available to everybody, put it on your public website as a blog, like newsletter blog, and then link to the blog, and just put in this newsletter a couple of the main points. To learn more, go here. That's one of the most common mistakes we see is they're just newsletters are so long that they're not reaching people because it's firewalls are thinking it's spam. So it's automatically getting blocked or going into spam filters because there's too much content within the space. So keep it short, to the point. Make sure that you're using one column, not two columns for mobile. And then once you get all your content in here, once you've browsed around, you've uploaded images, you got everything that you need in, then you can simply test it. So there's a couple of things that you can do. So here, I'm going to delete this one. So I come up here and I can delete this section. I'm going to move this down. So you can move things around as you're going to making edits. I can move this all the way to the bottom. I don't want the double column. So I'm going to remove this entire section. Delete. I'm going to remove this section. And then once you have it kind of, and again, this is just an example, you guys would add a lot more content. You can either send it as a test, save as a template. So you can save right from here. So once you get this all beautiful, the way you want it to look and everything is pretty, you then can save it as a template. Save as a draft as you go, especially if it is going to take you time, like you're creating graphics as you're adding it in here. I do that too. I have multiple tabs open as I'm doing newsletters for you guys. And so just make sure that you save as you go. It's one thing that people don't do, and then they lose it because they close a tab and then it's not saved and then they have to start all over again. That's a common mistake that happens. So make sure you do that when you're saving your templates. If you're giving it a name, so like newsletter, if it's already in there, it will replace it. It has to be spelled exactly the same as what it already is. So if you want to create a different newsletter, you can say newsletter April, and it will add another one for you. Once I have this done, I'm then going to go into my list. So another thing you can do is you can also test and preview it out here. And when you're previewing, you can preview it. If we go back to content in mobile view, but again, don't use the double columns because every mobile device is a different size, but you can get a good idea of what it will look like on the average size device. I'm going to close up here. Oh yeah, don't hit back. If you hit back, it'll go back and you'll lose your work. Always go up to the corner and hit the X button. I do that all the time. All right, then we're going to find your lists. So list building. There's a few ways you can do this. You can come up and click on list builder and create your lists or manage your lists here, or you can simply do it over as you're creating your email campaign. And you can also do it by simply importing a list that you have from a third party. The lists that appear here are from two locations. They're from your list building, and they're also from your sign up forms. Now, sign up forms are actual subscriptions that you can put on your website, or you can just have in the back end. So when people click the unsubscribe option in an email, they then have the option to see what type of information they want. So the perfect example, and I'm actually going to jump over to our site that we use to show you the different sign up forms that we have them for the newsletters, the release notes, webinars, and announcements. So whenever we have maintenance or anything like that, we have sign up forms. And this helps keep your list clean and targeted. So you want to make sure that people who want to receive the information get it. Because if you're just sending out to everybody in your member base, you're going to get a lot of unopens, bounces, and other things along those lines. So you want to make sure that you're targeting and you're providing the people with the information that they want. So also, as I mentioned, is these will appear when somebody goes to try and opt out of communications. So instead of completely opting out, there's options for them to choose. If there's no options, they're just going to click that opt out, and then you cannot communicate with them going forward because they've opted out to not receive any communications from you. So one thing to always do is make sure that you have these sign up forms in place, even if you're not using them on your public website, which you can grab the link and embed them in, but just make sure that you have them there. So they're really easy to set up. You just give it a name. So I can say this newsletter again. And I'll say it's newsletter 2. You say what information you want. So first name, last name, organization, email is mandatory. And then you can create your form. If there's already people that you have from a previous email campaign site, like Constant Contact or MailChimp, you can paste them in and apply the consent settings for that group of individuals before creating your form. So really easy to do. If you don't have people, that's okay too. You just have to create it this way, and then it's there and available for your members. So let's go back over here, and I'm actually going to show you how to create a list directly from here. So if I go to lists, let's create a custom list. And we're going to stick for the newsletter. I'm just going to say that I want it to go to all my active members, because that's a common ask. So I'm going to go to continue. And then here is where, so first thing you're going to notice, and everyone always likes to ask this, what does the red line mean? It means they do not have email consent. It means that they have opted out to all communications and you cannot send them emails. So out of all the contacts in here, there's quite a few that have not had communications or you cannot communicate with. When I come up here, these are the fields that I can filter based off of. So the first thing that we are going to do is an and statement. So there's and statements and there's or statements. If it's within the same green box, it's an and statement. If you have 2 green boxes, it's an or statement. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to come to membership, and I'm strictly going to go to primary, and I'm going to go to active. And so this means that everybody in my system that is active is in the list. Now, if I wanted to narrow that down again, and if I really wanted to target specific individuals for communications, I can even go as far as to say what category I want them to be in. So I could say they have to be a corporate member and they have to be active. So this is an and statement. So nobody fits right now in my database for this filter. So they are not active and they don't have this membership. I can also adjust this. So I can say, okay, I want them to either be gold or individual and maybe silver, and save. And I have 5 that fit this and statement. They are active and they have specific membership that I have selected. If I wanted an or statement, I would then, you would want to add a different column. So the or would be for if you had 2 of them, but it's not something that you can do within this settings. You actually have to go up to create it from the list builder. So that's something to be aware of. So here I would have my and statement and I can hit continue. And when I do, I come back to going to my sent. But if I wanted to do that or statement, I would actually have to come up to my manage. And I would add more criteria to it. So if you want to get the or statement in, you do have to do it under the lists itself. It's not something you can do within the email campaign. So something to take note of. But I could say that I want them to be able this, or they can be an employee with active. And if they either fit this criteria or they fit this criteria to be in my list. Now, another thing with our list is they are dynamic. They automatically update based off of the contact information on the contact record. So if a membership goes from active to lapsed, they're automatically removed from this list. If they no longer have a membership and it goes archived, they're automatically removed from the list. If they are no longer an employee, they're automatically removed from the list. All those factors come into play. So you never have to worry about your list. Once you create the settings and you have it correctly done, then you simply save and you can send those communications to that targeted group without having to worry Just make sure that you're updating your contact records as you go, so that you have the most up-to-date lists as well. Okay, so let's go back. So once you have your recipients, and I'm just going to go back to recipients. So you can select your list. You can select a couple lists if you like. It will not, if you have people on 2 lists, it will only send them 1 communications. It will not send them 2 communications. So I might be on the HR resources list and the active member list, but I'm only going to get 1 email. So you don't have to worry about overlapping. You can add additionals and you can exclude specific individuals if you want. One thing that I always like to do, and what I do in our system, is I actually have a staff membership, and I send all communications that I send out to others to my staff as well, so they're aware of what we're communicating out externally. All right, then we go to continue, and it'll tell me exactly how many recipients I will be allowed to send this to. So even if they're on the list and they have a red line through it, I can't communicate with them, so they will not appear as sent contacts. I can either send it immediately, so it can go right out, or I can schedule it. Now, this is a new feature that I'm very excited that is in beta testing right now. So I'm really happy to share with you that you can actually now schedule a specific time and date and in what time zone you are in. So I can actually schedule this to go out next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can set a setting within your email campaign settings. And if I open this tab to show you, you can select your time zone. So you can have a standard time zone for your time zone, and this is what will automatically appear in each of these. And then I can simply hit schedule, or I can save it as a draft because I want to come back and make edits later. If I schedule this campaign, it will go into your query and it will not leave there until you are ready for it to go out, or it hits the scheduled time, and then it will automatically go out on the time that it's supposed to go. So something cool new that's coming. So again, it's just in beta testing now. We're hoping to release it in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for those coming out. All right, so then we have analytics. So once your email campaigns go out, what does that look like? So you can come into your email campaigns, go to your analytics, and if you come down here, you're going to see all the different email campaigns that have been sent out. From here, you can either delete them, look at what they previously was sent. You can duplicate it, and then you can view the analytics by clicking on this button or by just simply clicking on the header. You can see the recipients, how many unique opens and clicks. Now, one thing I always like to mention for clicks is that if someone hasn't clicked that this is a safe email, you might have someone have like 3 or 4 clicks or even 20 clicks because they've actually gone through, but it's not technically open because they haven't deemed it as safe. So that's something to be aware of for if you're trying to analyze the data. It's not been saved, but it's actually been clicked on. So we actually collect the clicks, but we can't count it as a view because it hasn't been deemed as safe. So you will see that sometimes within analytics. You can also see how many people have unsubscribed within each email campaign. Even for the clicks, you can see specific which ones have been clicked, and it shows you what the URL that they are clicking on. So make sure that you have that call to action really clear in your emails too, so you know where they're going. Now you can see exactly who's opening, who is not opening from there. The one thing that I will mention, and I know a lot of people ask about bounce rates, this is something that we will be adding in 2023. It's something that our development team is working on. So hopefully that will help you in the future. It's not something we have currently, but it is coming. So something to be aware of. All right. So we have gone over how to create an email campaign, lists, sign up forms, analytics. Now let's go over to best practices. So I mentioned quite a few of them throughout the webinar, but let's just go over them. So building targeted lists and using sign up forms. So I did mention that have those sign up forms is really important because if somebody ever goes to unsubscribe, you want to be able to have a list available for them to be able to select which communications, and so they don't completely opt out. Personalize your email, so add like first names, things like that. You can do that with the merge tags. Making sure that your emails are concise and to the point. Don't have really long emails. Use your workspaces or create a blog if it's available to be public so that people can link to it. So have that call to action, the button, have it nice and big. One thing also I will mention for buttons is write in the button what it is, because if some people have images disabled, they can't see the button, so they'll only see the word. So having what it is concisely is really important too. So something to keep in mind. Optimize for mobile, don't use columns. Make sure you're using rows. Columns can make the email look a little wonky on mobile devices. It's just kind of best practice all around. Even other MailChimp and Constant Contact recommend not using it. They have it, but they don't recommend it. Test your emails, test, send tests to more than one person on your team. Make sure you check on your mobile device as well as on your desktop. Test all links, make sure that they're working. Make sure you use full links like HTTPS for all your links, add that in. And then if you need to further segment your list. So make sure that if instead of having a broad audience so that you don't get a lot of unsubscribes or bounces, segment them so people are getting the communications that they want to get. Can be hard, but something to take into consideration. And then, as I mentioned, use clear call to actions buttons, have it on the button what it is. Complete your domain authentication. It is really important that you do that. I can't emphasize that enough. Emails will not go out if it's not completed. Be very careful with keywords and styling. So making sure that you're using the notepad to get rid of styling that you may have had in the Word document. I know it's a little frustrating having to relink links, but it will benefit you in the end. Any questions? So I see one question in here, but if you have any others, please add them in. If you're wondering, columns in your email templates, are these mobile friendly? No. So as I mentioned, columns are not mobile friendly. So don't use them. I highly recommend using rows instead. Again, I know that sometimes the images can be a little bit bigger on desktop, but it makes it so much easier on mobile. And I read a lot of my newsletters and that on my mobile device while I'm on the go or my kids are on the playground playing. So something to keep in mind. Are there any other questions? Oh, can you go over how to see a mobile device? Yeah, sure. So mobile device. So if I go back into here and I go to my email campaign, do I have one open? No. Okay, so I'm going to go to my draft. I'm just going to pull a draft out. So mine's not in draft. Mine's in actually pending delivery. So you can't go back into it. So that's something to be aware of. If I go back into pending delivery, I can remove from query. And it's going to go back into my drafts. So there it is. So I can then hit continue. And to look at on mobile, I would go preview at the top here. And up on the side, there's desktop and then there's mobile. And again, don't hit back, come up to the corner here to get out of here and hit the X button. So you come back into here. If you go back, you're going to lose any work if you haven't saved as a draft before you previewed. So always save as a draft as you go to. You are very welcome. Any other questions, any other concerns? I know I'm really excited about the new release of the scheduler. So that is coming. If you are overly excited and want to join our beta group, let me know. You can always email me back after I send out the recording. So something that you can join too. Again, it will be probably released within the next 2 weeks, if not sooner. And then also make sure you're doing your DNS authentications. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Just some additional resources. So as I always like to mention, you always have the instructional videos on our YouTube channel. We have our knowledge base. You can submit a ticket for support if you have premium support, meaning that you can use your chat or do Zoom calls with us. You can always take advantage of those. If you don't have premium support, reach out to us. We're more than happy to let you know what that is. You can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter and our release notes. So fun things like what is coming up or what has been released. You'll be able to get those right in your inbox. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.